This was the day the world of sister wives came out with its hands up. For years, we believed we had seen it all, the scandals, the drama, the heartbreaks. We had witnessed the laughter, the fights, the famous catfish saga, and one marriage after another disintegrating right before our eyes. But what I'm going to share with you was never supposed to end up on the cameras. Hey everyone, it's Anna and welcome back to Core Wealth. Today, we're diving into a courtroom showdown that tore away the last illusion of unity. Mary Brown, the longtime shy behind polygamy, stepped forward with something far more powerful than Cody Brown's charisma. A file full of proof, her voice sharper than a judge's hammer. This was not television anymore. This was contracts, receipts, deeds, and vows broken down to lies. And when Mary confronted Cody and informed him that everything he had built rested on her sacrifice, something broke irreparably. What happened in that courtroom wasn't just shutting Cody up, it rocked the Sister Wives universe. Because behind the closed doors was a bombshell about Coyote Pass, the 12-acre dream of shared destiny nobody saw coming. You think you know who really owns the land? You don't. Over the next few minutes, you'll hear the initial words that shocked the judge into her chair. You'll see the very documents Cody tried desperately to bury. And you'll learn about the agreement that promised every wife a share of Coyote Pass, except Mary. By the end, you'll understand why this fight wasn't about Arizona soil. It was about 30 years of unpaid labor, broken promises, and a man rewriting his family's story to suit himself. The air in the room that day was thick with tension. Every cough, every creak of paper sounded like a gun cocking. When Mary stood up, her heels clicking on the highly waxed floor, the room seemed to gasp with her. Think about that. For years, Sister Wives defined her as the quiet one, always in the background, eclipsed by louder personalities. And yet, here she was, marching with purpose, in a black blazer, hair pulled back with no tolerance for softness, clutching a folder that bore the weight of 30 years. Her gaze did not falter as she passed by Robin and Cody. She grasped the microphone in her hand and held it lower. "Your Honor," she stated, her voice steady but quivering at the edges. Not with fear, but with a lifetime of silence. "I stand here to reclaim what is mine, not just as a wife, but as a woman, as a mother, as a human being. I want what is mine, and I'm not going anywhere until I get it." Gasps were heard all through the room. At that point, the story was changed. This wasn't Mary begging for pardon. This was Mary confronting Cody in one arena where his charm had no power, a courtroom. The judge, grey-haired and keen-eyed, leaned forward. Her calm but piercing gaze alerted all that this would not be waved away. Mary had waited 30 years for this moment. 30 years of compromise, 30 years of giving in to Cody's demands. Now, at last, she stood tall. But time was not on her side. The defense was ready. Before they could strike, Mary pulled the first sheet from her folder, curled margins, frayed from being moved around, perhaps even slept upon. She held it up for the court to see. "This is a receipt dated August 14th, 2018, a funds deposit out of my business account into the family trust, the very same family trust intended to finance Coyote Pass." Her words cut through the silence. "And yet, my name was never placed on the deed." A silence had fallen in the gallery. She spread out another document. "This is the realtor's letter of acknowledgement of my investment." And then a third, the contract for the show itself. This quite clearly states that proceeds from filming were to fund our shared future, including homes on Coyote Pass. The judge read the documents, Cody's arms folded so tightly his knuckles turned white. Robin gazed away, her eyes tracing the floor. Because the truth wasn't just on those pages, it was on Cody's own broken words. Mary's voice turned tough. When I agreed in 2014 to divorce Cody so he could marry Robin legally and adopt her children, I did it expecting our spiritual and economic parity would stay intact. It was a lie. Her tone was unflappable. I gave this family 30 years. I raised a child. I contributed to the building of the show that bought this land. And now I've been told that I'm not good enough for an inch of it. Her fists were clenched around the stand. I gave up my marriage. I gave up my voice, but I will not give up on my future. Behind her, Janelle edged forward, mouthing silently after her, an unmistakable face that said, "Me too." But to truly comprehend the weight of this moment, we needed to return. Back to 2018, when Coyote Pass was merely Cody's dream. He painted it on canvas for his wives in the form of 4 houses on 12 acres. Equal shares, equal voice, equal futures. Cameras rolled as he spoke of legacy and harmony. But behind closed doors, money shifted unseen. And now, under oath, the truth came out. "Mrs. Brown," the judge asked, "was the property always to be divided equally?" "Yes, Your Honour," replied Mary. 4 wives, 4 equal shares. That was the agreement." "And when did you discover your name was left off the deed?" Mary's jaw tightened. "Late 2023. Janelle and I were matching documents. That's when I realised I had been cut out." "And what did you say to Mr. Brown when you went to him? He told me he worked harder, and therefore he should have more. But that was not our deal. It was never how hard worked. It was family." The defence pounced on that comment at this time. Cody's lawyer rose, neat and to the point. "Objection, Your Honour. This is irrelevant sentiment. Mrs. Brown's worth was spiritual, not financial." Mary let out a low, bitter laugh. Her attorney inched closer beside her, his eyes blazing. "To the contrary, Your Honour. Mr. Brown structured family finances so that—" And here the case turns in a direction no one, not even Cody, had anticipated. The trail of money spun a tale Cody didn't want revealed. TLC checks, side ventures, joint ventures, all of those flowed into shared accounts. Mary wasn't just a spiritual wife. She was an unpaid business partner in a half-century-long business, and it was that business that purchased Coyote Pass. The judge's eyebrows shot up. Cody's lawyer bristled. The 2014 divorce, once framed as Mary's selfless sacrifice so Cody could marry Robin legally and adopt Robin's kids, now looked something entirely different. It wasn't about love, religion, or family. It was leverage, and Cody had held on tight to it. We've all seen the footage, Cody grinning proudly after the adoption, Mary beside him with a forced smile. What no one knew then was that she had given up her legal rights, the very shield that could have protected her. Now, years later, she was fighting to reclaim what was lost. Mary's lawyer waved to introduce her proof. Cody sat stiff, the only movement the nervous drumbeat of his foot against the table. Robin didn't even glance up. The game had changed. Mary was no longer a background character. She was no longer demure wife begging for crumbs of affection. She was a plaintiff with receipts, each sheet tearing apart Cody's carefully constructed narrative. And then there was the next shock. "Mrs. Janelle Brown, take the witness stand." The courtroom was quiet as Janelle rose to her feet. Her pose carried the years of giving, years of being overlooked, years of putting herself into a vision she cherished. She hadn't just sat back and watched Coyote Pass rise up. She had been a part of it. Her savings, her business profits, her trust had all been poured into that land. But on paper, she didn't exist. She cinched the microphone, her voice even but tempered with steel. "Your Honour, I'm here not just for myself, but for equity. When Coyote Pass was purchased, Cody promised me personally that we all would have an ownership. 4 wives, 4 homes, 4 futures. That was the promise." The judge leaned forward. "And you spent money?" "Yes," Janelle answered unequivocally. "From my business account and from profits from TLC, every cent I put in was with the understanding that I was investing in our future. But when Mary and I matched books, we found out we weren't forgotten, we were erased. She became bitter-voiced. When I talked to Cody and asked him why, he told me, and I'm quoting, "I've done more for this family than either of you, so I deserve more." That was never our bargain. That was never our family. For Janelle, Coyote Pass wasn't land. It was the thread that tied her to a plural marriage long after love had lost all connection. She had traded financial security, thinking the dream was real. Only now did she understand it had been written to belong only to Cody and Robin. Cody's lawyer saw his opportunity. "Mrs. Brown, can you show us that your money was directly linked to Coyote Pass?" Janelle didn't flinch. "Yes, I have bank statements and signed documents from the family trust, all pertaining to the acquisition of the land. They're all ready with the court." The attorney leaned forward. "But the house is in Mr. Brown's name, isn't it?" Janelle's eyes also constricted. "Just so, because he saw to it." There was a murmur of gasps along the gallery. Cody's face reddened. "Mr. Cody Brown, step forward," commanded the judge. Slowly, Cody stood, his footsteps choreographed, almost dramatic. He straightened his tie before he sat back down. The bailiff swore him in. This was what the fans had waited years to witness. No cameras, no confessionals, no spin, just Cody sworn in. Mary's attorney was not one to waste time. "Mr. Brown, did all 4 wives contribute financially toward the purchase of Coyote Pass?" Cody leaned back. "They helped the family, but I did the groundwork to get the land." "Answer simply, yes or no. Did all 4 wives help?" A pause. "Yes." "And was there a proposal to split up the land evenly?" Cody dodged. "We talked about it, but there wasn't a contract." "But there was an oral agreement, wasn't there?" "Maybe, but things get reshuffled." That line, "things change," slapped with a vengeance. Because the only thing that had changed was where Cody's loyalties lay and the papers that killed the women who built his world. The attorney goaded. "You knew Mary and Janelle's names weren't on the deed." "Yes, and you didn't feel you needed to tell them about it?" "It wasn't necessary," Cody growled. The stunned silence that fell was oppressive. Not necessary to enlighten 2 women who'd spent their lives and their money that they had nothing legally. "They occupied the property when we were still a family," Cody defended. The judge's forehead was creased. "Mr. Brown, the issue before me here is not use, it's ownership." Cody's jaw locked. He glanced over at Robin, whose fists were crossed so hard her knuckles whitened. For years, Cody's story had dominated TLC edits, podcasts, and media. But here, in court sworn under oath, paper trail was different. He left the wives much sooner than they ever left him. Cross-examination began. "Mr. Brown, did you invest TLC profits, revenues from all 4 wives, in buying Coyote Pass?" Cody shifted restlessly. "Yes." The lawyer relaxed against the bench. No further questions. The defense jumped in. "Mr. Brown, isn't it a fact that you did the planning, the negotiating, the vision for Coyote Pass?" "Yes, my idea, my work. Without me, there would be no property." And there it sat. The defense's entire argument that Cody's vision was worth more than years of effort and sacrifice by everyone else. But visions don't make good courtroom arguments. Deeds do. Mary's lawyer took his stand once more, heels pounding on the floor like a countdown clock. "Your Honor, Mr. Brown is claiming Coyote Pass belongs to him because of his vision. But we disagree. Really, we have a witness who can speak about how the purchase was made and who showed up during those negotiations." The bailiff swung open the side door. A tall, grey-suited man entered, holding a leather folder. Daniel Harris, the family's former real estate broker. The colour had drained from Cody's face. Harris had been but a signature on closing documents for years. On the stand, however, his testimony could tear everything to shreds. Sworn in, Harris sat. "Mr. Harris," Mary's attorney began, "can you tell us about your involvement in the sale of Coyote Pass?" "Yes," Harris replied matter-of-factly. "I was the agent who sold the property way back in 2018. I worked directly with the family trust, and from the beginning, I was told all 4 wives were to be equal co-owners. All 4 wives? Yes, Harris reiterated firmly. Each of them was presented to me as an equal buyer. The courtroom erupted into whispers. Cody's lawyer sprang to his feet. Your Honor, unless the witness can produce documents. Harris opened the leather binder. I can, and it's all here. Among that folder of leather was paper more than mere papers, a surprise. Signed minutes of meetings, email, and even the original draft of the deed declaring all 4 wives owners of Coyote Pass. If Harris is right, somewhere between that original draft and final filing, Mary and Janelle's names were systematically scratched out. And whose signature giving it approval? Cody Brown's, Mary's attorney confronted. Mr. Harris, is it standard procedure for a deed to change from draft to filing without a client's direct request? No, Harris replied firmly, and in this instance, the client who issued those instructions was Mr. Brown. Cody lurched forward. That is not accurate. The judge's stern voice cut him short. Mr. Brown, your turn will come. Then Harris pulled out an opened printed email. This, he waved, is from September 2018, a letter from Mr. Brown instructing me to have the deed drawn up in his name only and delete Mary and Janelle's names to avoid unnecessary confusion. The room erupted in gasps. Mary and Janelle exchanged a glance, not shock, but vindication. The truth had entered the light at last. Cody's defense had ceased to be about vision or commitment. It was now about control, and the paper trail caught him in his own hands. His lawyer tried one last approach. Mr. Harris, could you have misunderstood my client's intention? Harris shook his head. No, his instructions were clear, and I followed them. Was he maybe meaning it temporarily? Not by an engraved deed. Engraved, it's there forever unless changed legally. The defense attorney clenched his teeth. No further questions. The judge leaned back in her chair, clicking her pen in contemplation. Given the nature of this evidence and new evidence, this court will require additional time. We reconvene 2 weeks from today. All Coyote Pass related records will be sealed and in effect. Any effort to alter them will be contempt. And in that moment, air was drawn from the room. No decision, not yet, but damage was done. Cody Brown had been revealed. Outside, chaos was waiting. Reporters massed on courthouse steps, microphones poised. Mary clutched her folder close to her and whispered, I did not come here to destroy someone's life. I came here to get what I am owed. Janelle stepped beside her, steady and unyielding. We're not stopping, not now, not ever. Meanwhile, Cody and Robin slipped out a side door, faces tight, refusing to speak. The battle for Coyote Pass wasn't over, but the public had already chosen sides. Across the nation, screens lit up. On one side, grainy courtroom sketches. On the other, commentators dissecting every moment. Hashtags like Cut Cody Conspiracy and Justice for Jane exploded online. One viral clip showed a longtime fan shaking her head into her phone. We've watched this family for over a decade. We've seen the tears, the divorces, the drama, but this feels criminal. Fan forums broke down courtroom footage frame by frame. Every glance from Cody, every sigh from Janelle, debated like evidence in a trial of its own. Legal analysts had their say. Former prosecutor Ela Simmons said to viewers, "This case is not about money, it's about trust. Years of promises and reality TV soap opera are now crashing against the hard, cold realities of reality." She went on, "It was when the unfiled land contracts were introduced by Janelle's lawyer that it became a turning point for me. If those stand up, the whole case of Cody collapses, and Robin's complicity can be legally challenged as well." By lunchtime, courthouse steps were jammed with TMZ satellite trucks, Entertainment Weekly, People, all camped out in anticipation of morsels of information. TikTok flickered with edits splicing together clips of previous sister wives moments and text overlays. The receipts were there the whole time, we just didn't realize. Civil law commentator Marcus Delgado warned, if true, this testimony won't only redefine property rights, it might revolutionize the drafting of reality TV contracts. Networks might never risk getting into a family breakdown like this again. But just at the peak of the mania started the rumors. Rumor of a last piece of evidence, a brown envelope, rumored to have enough evidence to put the trial to an end in a flash. Back in court again, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. The judge rapped her gavel twice. The room was silent, yet not quite. All eyes darted to the prosecution's table, and to that one brown envelope resting so innocently upon it. What was inside, and would it finally bring down Cody's empire? On the judge's desk was a thick, dog-eared brown envelope stamped with an unforgiving red word, confidential. It had sat there all morning, unopened, looming like a ghost that nobody would handle. Both sides avoided it, avoided speaking of it, but eventually there was nowhere else to hide. "Counsel, approach," commanded the judge. The lawyers whispered to each other. Cody's face darkened. His knuckles were pale as he placed his hands on the table. Robin glanced at the envelope, then glanced away, as though looking at it would burn her. Finally, they made the decision. The envelope would be opened in front of a judge. Commentators encapsulated it themselves later. The moment that seal was ordered broken, this was no longer family drama, this was history. The bailiff sliced it open. Papers spilled out. Photocopies, handwritten documents, signatures in thick ink. It was not evidence. It was a time capsule. "Your Honour, Exhibit 49, the prosecutor stated. A signed 2015 agreement of funds transferred from the family trust directly into a bank account in the name of Robin Brown. There were gasps from the courtroom. Janelle's attorney turned another page, and this, an email from Mr. Brown to the developers of Coyote Pass, in which he promises his wives that they would each have an equal interest in the property. The sketch artist's pencil halted on the exact moment when Cody's jaw set in granite. Legal analyst Ela Simmons hit it on the head. That's the smoking gun, signatures, dates, a money trail, and Robin's name alone as signatory on the account. That's going to haunt the jury. But the revelations were not complete. There was a letter, double-folded and confidential, written in Cody's handwriting inside the package. The prosecutor continued to read. If the others ever discover what we made the deal for, it's over. This land was always supposed to be ours, Robin. The others will come to understand. The gallery burst open. Christine gasped in shock. Mary shook her head, eyes shut. One envelope had transformed suspicion into stark reality. Outside, social media burst open. Hashtags ran wild. Commentators declared the trial a watershed moment for reality television. And within, oxygen was heavy as the jury entered. At 4:17 p.m., after 3 weeks of testimony, dozens of exhibits, and what seemed like endless cross-examinations, the moment of truth had arrived. The foreperson held the verdict form like a hot branding iron. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," the judge asked, "have you reached a verdict?" "Yes, we have." Newsreaders interrupted live. "If you've just tuned in, locked evidence has blown this case wide open. We're moments away from a verdict that has the potential to make reality television history." Janelle sat up straight, her lawyer's firm grip on her arm. Cody lunged forward, shoulders tense. Robin was in front, lips narrowed into a thin white line. There was a torture of silence. Each blink became ear-shattering. Each breath was counted. "In the matter of financial wrongdoing," the foreperson began. The word hung like smoke. "We find the defendant," pundits murmured. "If Cody's guilty, it could bring criminal charges. If not, the repercussions might be worse." And then the word dropped. "Guilty!" The courtroom exploded. Gasp, wails, reporters rushing for the doors to break the news. Cody slammed his fist onto the table, screaming in fury at his lawyer. Janelle took a trembling breath, not triumph, but relief. On the outside, the internet imploded. We knew it. TikTok's flooded feeds, Twitter trends exploded. Podcasters proclaimed, "This verdict is not about money, it's about betrayal, trust, and the end of an era." But even as the gavel fell for the final time, one question remained. What now? Because in the world of the Browns, scandals don't end, they multiply. So if you're the Team Wives, smash that like button, subscribe for the next bombshell, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and get ready, because this family story is far from over.